Let's get straight into it tonight. Former New South Wales Labor Treasurer Michael Costa's one part of our panel, and we're also joined by Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes. Welcome to you both. Hollie, you were the shadow climate change and energy minister for a long time, spokesman. You know the reality here. We've got two different takes on the story. Where does the truth lie?
Well, the truth does not lie in an ideologically driven, renewables-only answer to our energy solution. It is a complete and utter myth that our country is going to be able to be fueled and the lights kept on and businesses kept running on a fully renewable system. It just doesn't exist. It's not going to happen. And we are consistently being lied to when it comes to the true cost of renewables. When you look at the transmission lines cost, what is going through communities, and we're seeing companies now not being able to live up to those promises of projects to be delivered in transmission lines anyway. You mentioned the wind drought. Well, this is the sort of stuff that's going to continue to happen. We're going to see power start to go out when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing.
Michael, you ever heard of the term wind drought before?
Yes, I have, Steve. And the reason I have is I looked it up a few months back, and Germany went through a wind drought that went for 6 weeks, and they had to import nuclear energy from France. So it's very common to have wind droughts, and it is a real problem unless you've got baseload power, and you've got reliable baseload power, and you've got accessible baseload power. And look, the only solution to all of this is gas. And, we've just got to be real about this. Nuclear is certainly an option for the future, but in the meantime, we've just got to get real about gas. It can't work without gas, and that's the bottom line here.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of gas and speaking of energy, both of you, as I mentioned at the top of the show, wholesale electricity prices have been going up, forcing energy bills up again, especially for commercial businesses, all because, and hear this, a prolonged stretch of cold weather. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. I mean, Hollie, we've been saying this over and over and over again. How is it that Chris Bowen can just sit there and go, well, no, cheaper, renewables are cheaper, and that's the road we're going down?
I mean, Blackout Bowen is just on an ideological crusade. It's disgraceful. And I mean, as a nation, we are basically floating on gas. It is just obscene, this ideological objection against gas. The fact we're exporting so much. Michael's right. We should be trying to get as much gas into the system as possible whilst we make the transition to a much better balance of energy solutions. We should be looking to nuclear in the future because it is zero emissions, but it is reliable base load energy. That's what will keep the lights on. That's what will keep power prices down. But in the interim, we need to make sure we have gas firming up the system. Wind and solar are simply not going to cut it.
Michael, in the great socialist state of Victoria, the government's actually legislated to ban gas, all connections to new residential properties. I don't know if the rest of Australia knows this, but all new residential properties are not going to be able to connect to gas. The federal government, though, on the other hand, has just approved 2 new offshore gas exploration licences, one of them on the Victorian coast. So the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, Michael.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think your expression about left versus right is probably where it lies. I mean, you've got a left-wing government that's absolutely crazy down there. And
I don't know. I think it's the left versus the far left.
Well, whatever it is, it is completely irrational. The federal government's done the right thing here on this particular issue. I wish they'd scrap the wind farms they're talking about putting off the coast up here where I am. However, this just proves the point. I mean, we've got to have gas. This is going to take longer than they think. It is. People in other countries have realised the magnitude of the task. I mean, look, Steve, they haven't even looked at the question of minerals. There's not enough minerals. I've seen reports that show there's not enough minerals available and the current mining parameters to be able to make the batteries that you require to firm up the system for a couple of hours. But if you get a wind drought of 6 weeks, a 2-hour battery is not going to help you at all. So, the whole thing is bonkers. It needs to be reviewed, and rational people need to be setting policy, not people like Chris Bowen, who's really only interested in keeping left-wing votes in those inner city seats.
I'm going to go home tonight and fire up the wok on my gas top. That's what I'm going to do.